Chairperson Eswine.
Here.
Vice Chair Sattler.
Here.
Commissioner Green.
Here.
Commissioner Monroy.
Here.
Commissioner Owens. Commissioner Salerno.
Here.
A quorum's present.
Thank you. Mr. Salerno, could you lead us in the pledge, please?
I would be happy to.
Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we would entertain public comment to comment on and discuss any topic that is relevant to or within the authority of the Planning Commission, including any matter that is not specifically included on the agenda as an action item for this meeting. Is anyone here for public comment?
Good evening. I'm Sharon Ross with Capital City Arts Initiative, and I'd like to welcome you to your new exhibition. This is by Mike Malley, who teaches at Carson High, so you're amongst 35 fish. His cutthroat trout are his muse, and he's been working on these for a number of years. We were thrilled when we found them, and we went down, did a studio visit. He had 41 of them ready to go, brought them all, and we're able to have room for 35 of them. So I hope you enjoy them. There will be a reception for Mike on September 9th from 5 to 7 here. It's not on the flyer that's in your envelope because we set the date after we went to print. But September 9th, 5 to 7 in here. Also, I handed out a copy of our essay that we commissioned for our exhibition over at the courthouse. It's by MFA Master Fine Arts students from UNR and Sierra Nevada College. It's the third show we've done in that series, and I hope you get a chance to go over and see it. That'll be up through September. Also, we have a new exhibition over at the Brick. We're now using that as a student gallery, and we have an exhibition by UNR students, and that will be up through August. And in September, we're going to hang a group show of art from Carson High, Douglas High, and Dayton High. So we've got art going on all over town. Also in your packet is our membership form. If you'd like to join or share that with somebody who you know in town that really enjoys the arts, please feel free to do so. Do you have any questions? No? Okay. If you want to know more about Mike, back on the wall, there's a wall text back there that tells more. So thank you. I appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to participate in public comment?
Oh, sure.
Okay, moving on. Approval of the minutes of June 29, 2016.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
I will second that motion.
We have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as written. I would like to state that we will insert the correction provided by the secretary. Yep. Okay, all those in favor of approval of the minutes signify by saying aye. Aye.
I will abstain.
Okay, thank you. We have 4 in favor, 1 abstention, and 1 absence and 1 vacancy. Thank you. Modification of the agenda. Items on the agenda may be taken out of order. The public body may combine 2 or more agenda items for consideration, and the public body may remove an item from the agenda or delay discussion relating to an item on the agenda at any time. Mr. Plemmel, any changes?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to weigh in on something really quick, just for clarity of the record. Dan Yu for the record. DA's office here in Carson City. It was brought to my attention earlier this morning that there was a slight discrepancy between the agendas in hard copy form that were distributed and that were also distributed to email recipients as opposed to the one that was posted online on carson.org. Just a small error. What was included on the agenda that was posted online was the open meeting law presentation that I'll be providing to the members upon adjournment of tonight's meeting. That should not have made its way into that agenda, so just wanted to clarify that one will be taken out for purposes of the record. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Yu. Any other modifications? Okay. Disclosures. Any member of the commission may wish to explain any contact with an applicant or the public regarding an item on the agenda or business of the commission. Are there any disclosures? Seeing none, we will move on to the public hearing. Item F1, SUP-16-062 for possible action. To consider a request for a special use permit from Laverne Zimmerman, property owner Laverne Zimmerman, to allow expansion of a building to continue along an existing non-conforming rear setback, accessory buildings to exceed 50% of the size of the primary structure, and guest building to exceed 1,000 square feet on property zone single-family 1 acre, located at 4089 Capitol View Drive, APN 010-182-03. Ms. Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hope Sullivan, Planning Manager. The subject property is located on the west side of Capitol View Drive. It's 0.98 acres and is zoned SF 1 acre. The site is improved with a 2,196 square foot existing home, with an attached 1,472 square foot garage. It also has an existing 1,315 square foot two-story accessory dwelling on the property and 2 sheds. The applicant is proposing a 720 square foot first floor addition to the accessory dwelling, along with a 273 square foot carport. The addition will be a bedroom, a full bath, and an office. There are 3 relevant regulations regarding this proposal. First, Section 18.04.030 discusses non-conforming buildings where you have a non-conforming setback. And what the code says is you may expand that building and continue that non-conforming setback subject to a special use permit. Section 18.05.055 says that when the accessory structures on a site exceed 50% but are less than 75% of the size of the primary dwelling, there's an administrative review, which typically would mean the staff would conduct a public hearing and review the request. In this case, the applicant is deferring that request from staff to the Planning Commission so it can be considered as part of your overall review of the project. And the third item before you is, or the relevant regulation, is in our development standards. Section 1.4 states that the maximum size for an accessory dwelling in the SF 1 acre is 1,000 square feet. But then Section 1.4.9 says the maximum size can be modified with a special use permit. So essentially, we're starting with a non-conforming building. It's bigger than allowed, and it violates the setback. The applicant is proposing to make it a little bit bigger to meet their family's needs and to continue the non-conforming setback. And they're deferring to the Planning Commission on having accessory buildings that exceed 50% but are less than 75% of the size of the primary dwelling. The guest house is limited to family members and cannot become a rental per the code. It's currently, as I mentioned, a multi-generational household on the property. And after living there, I think they've identified that's not quite meeting their needs, and so they're seeking to have a bedroom and a bath on the first floor and an office space, and then they'll have the carport so they can get into the house without getting wet in the rain. The staff has reviewed the findings for a special use permit, and we are able to make the findings. The staff has visited the site and found that if you're on the property to the east, Northview, I believe it is, Northview Drive, you have obscured views of the existing dwelling, but mostly because of the second floor element. And since the addition are limited to first floor elements, we really don't believe there's going to be any type of problem with neighborhoods or neighbors. You do have 2 letters from neighbors supporting the project. And again, staff is recommending approval with conditions. Vernie Zimmerman, the property owner and the applicant, is present. It appears she brought some friends with her. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sattler?
Yes, clarification, the 20-foot setback when the original building was built was what it was. It's been changed to 30 since then, correct?
That's correct.
And the office space is a home office, I would imagine. It's nothing involved commercial or anything like that?
That's my understanding.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for staff? Good evening.
Hi. The so-called guests are actually my family.
Would you just identify yourself, please?
I'm Laverne Zimmerman,
Okay.
the one making this request.
Okay. And have you read the staff report?
I have.
And the conditions of approval?
I have.
Recommended?
Yes.
And you are okay with those?
I'm okay with all of it, yes.
Okay. Would you like to say anything in addition to what the staff has reported?
Basically, they've covered it all. I'm just mostly here in case you have any questions for me.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant? Yeah, I have to say that I think it's a reasonable application, that it's not out of the realm of what the code intended. And
Well, it would be nice to have my own bedroom and bathroom. I've given it to every other member of my family but me.
okay.
Just for clarification, too, what we're looking at is what's facing your existing dwelling. The
Correct.
backside, the windows
just
are only
flat.
on the first
Yes.
floor level, et
Yeah.
cetera.
There's-
The deck and all that's facing into the property.
Yes.
Okay. Very nice, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? And unless you have any other questions for us,
Nope, that's it.
okay, thank you. Bring it back to the commission. I'm sorry. I always forget that. Is there anyone in the public who wishes to address this item? We have 2 letters from neighbors in support that will be placed in the record. Are there, seeing nobody here, I'll bring it back to the commission then. Someone? For a motion.
I'm ready to make a motion. Okay. I move to approve SUP-16-06-062, a special use permit request to allow expansion of a building to continue along an existing non-conforming rear setback, accessory building to exceed 50% of the size of the primary structure, and guest building to exceed 1,000 square feet on property zone single-family 1 acre located at 4089 Capitol View Drive, APN 010-182-03, based on the findings and conditions of approval contained in the staff report.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second by Mr. Salerno. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All those in favor of approval of the special use permit signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. 1 absent and 1 vacancy. Thank you. So special use permits are, that's it. So you have your permit, and I guess you'll get one as soon as you sign off on the conditions of approval. What was that? Okay, we will close the public hearing at this point. And move on to staff reports. Mr. Plemmel.
Good evening. Barely into evening, and you're done through that. We haven't had that short a meeting in a while. So I had just a few things to go over. Just first, I'll cover some items that were previously before the Planning Commission going to the board. On July 1st, the Board of Supervisors approved the growth management resolution as recommended in the growth management allocations for the next year. It was back in May when that came to the Planning Commission. And then they also approved the ordinance that changed the Planning Commission application notice radius, so the radius for future applications after, I think tonight's meeting, but when it was adopted, it didn't hit this one, but any future meetings, the radius will go out. For any property over an acre is going to be a larger radius than it was previously. Thank you all for being accommodating for this special meeting time. There's, next Wednesday, I had a vacation plan, and then Hope had a grant opportunity to go to some historic resource training, so she'll be out during that. So thank you for your accommodation with that, and actually it's kind of a good thing then that this was a smaller meeting, so I think that worked out, but I appreciate that. Items for the next meeting, so since this is a little early, I can't report on items go to the Board of Supervisors this Thursday, the 21st. But we do have Mills Landing on that agenda. So you've recommended approval of Mills Landing, the tentative subdivision map, tentative planned unit development, and that goes on Thursday to the Board of Supervisors. So I'll report on that later. And also, because this is a little bit early, we actually haven't hit the Planning Commission application deadline yet, which is also Thursday. So we haven't received any applications yet, but we know that's going to change. There's a couple we expect, a couple, a sign, a casino, so the Schultz Ranch subdivision office. And so we'll give you an update after that deadline to let you know what's on the agenda, and especially because we don't know about the vintage application for that tentative map, because what we're trying to do is we know this room's not going to accommodate everybody that's going to want to show up, so we're going to need to make accommodations outside this room and maybe into the theater. So we may need to adjust slightly the August meeting date. No, not the August. If they don't submit by Thursday, then we might need to talk about the scheduling of the next meeting. But not to worry now, but just kind of we'll see what we get. But we do need to make accommodations in this building for a larger crowd for that. So we'll work with you on that. And then finally, at the last Board of Supervisors meeting, they interviewed Mark Sadler's position came to term and had ended. He was reappointed. There were several other applicants since the last Planning Commission. As I told you, we've received the resignation of Commissioner Castro, and so they're taking the applications for Planning Commissioner that they had an interview from the last meeting, plus I think they've got some additional. They'll be interviewing at the meeting in early August, so that should have somebody on for the August meeting to fill his position on the Planning Commission. And then finally, before you leave, remember we have this, as Dan said earlier, this open meeting law quick training session to go over with you. That's not part of the meeting, so you'll adjourn the meeting at the end of your reports and public comment, and then Dan will go over the open meeting law training. Oh, no, that's the last thing I had, but for Monica last time, asked about the William Street, the timing of the William Street improvements, and especially as it related to Mills Landing. And so that's kind of been actually quite in flux recently because of things going on with other corridor improvements. So Danny Rotter with engineering will give you kind of a quick update of what we know now.
I don't know, we know a whole lot more, but so the general schedule for the original sales tax projects was presented in 2014, and the plan was Carson Street North and East William would be designed in late 2017 into 2018 and then constructed in 2018. Because of the agreement with NDOT on South Carson and trying to make sure we're not all the way through Carson under construction and balancing funds as well. That's a big portion of it. South Carson will get shifted up because it needs to be under construction in 2019, which was planned for construction in 2019, but also the design was shifted down a little bit. So that design will shift a little up into, the design was going to kick off in 2018, not finish until mid-2019, and then start construction. But that is all going to shift up about a year. So instead of starting in mid-18, it's probably going to start in mid-17. And then North Carson and East William will shift about a year later. So instead of designing mid-2017 to mid-2018 and then doing construction in 2018, that probably slides to 2019, unless there's other grants that arise in the meantime, which is a possibility. So
Tell them a little bit about what upcoming planning on the South Carson Street.
yeah, so the South Carson Street, there will be a kind of a concept plan, high-level concepts. I think they brought that to the RTC last month or this month. So that'll kick off and have some public open meetings, kind of similar to the Carson Street downtown ones.
What's
Yep.
considered south, like south of? what?
So there's two sections of south. There's south and then there's south central. I don't know why we did that to ourselves. But south is officially, in the project I'm discussing with the NDOT funds, is Fairview south to the freeway. So south central is 5th Street to Fairview. Yeah,
So South Central is 5th to Fairview,
correct.
and south is beyond that.
South is south of Fairview to the intersection of Spooner Highway 50.
So the one you're talking about moving up is the Fairview to the
Freeway.
the
Correct.
freeway
Fairview
interchange.
to the freeway, yes. Yeah.
From what was in the paper, there's discussion maybe of downsizing some lanes or putting turn, whatever, in that
Yeah,
section.
so if I remember right, and don't quote me on the numbers, I think the traffic's at about 40,000 cars a day, and they're expecting that to go to 20 to 25. So there's some discussion there of what is the right size of road, maintaining that pavement into the future. Yeah, a lot of lane miles to maintain, so kind of all the discussions of how much pavement should we have, how can we green it up more, how can we make it more bicycle and pedestrian friendly, ADA improvements, those sorts of things.
How wide, or is the service road, is that included in NDOT's right-of-way?
Yes, yes. That's one of the biggest, what do you do with it? And if you can solve that problem, you can come sit down here.
Kind of ends at both ends, it used to go further when the armory and stuff was there.
Yeah, it used to go further.
All
and
the
then-
way down.
Does it, along that same line, where the armory is that frontage part of NDOT's right-of-way, or is that part of the old guard facility?
Where the frontage road is in
Well,
that, but back behind, I don't know exactly where that line is. But there's
But
a
if you were to
section of it-
continue the frontage road down to Fairview, it would be within the right-of-way?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Just north of there, the block wall, kind of behind that development there.
Yep.
That's about the right-of-way line,
Yeah.
if you project that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's wide.
Okay, so then, just so I understand. So the south part, the Fairview to the highway, has been pushed up. So hence pushing up the south central part, right? Or has that been pushed back?
No, that probably stays back.
Okay, and then, so we're finishing to 5th Street and then nothing until Fairview, and then that'll be pushed up, and then you're going to go to 50? Right, is that what I'm,
We would probably start construction on Fairview to 50 prior to construction on 5th to Fairview,
okay.
because the funding source is dictating that.
But you're bumping the Williams Street back probably a year from 17 to where it'll probably start development in 18?
Yeah, that'd be my guess, pending funding sources and possible grants, yeah.
Okay, any more comments? Okay. Any commissioners have anything to report?
Lee, I thought the interviews aren't this Thursday?
No, they ended up needing to provide notice and open it up for a period, so we pushed it out to the
It'll
first
be 2
meeting in
weeks from
August for the
Thursday.
planning commissioner interviews, yeah.
And as we mentioned at the office, we'll schedule our elections for next month?
Oh, yeah, I was going to mention that too. So we missed on the agenda having elections of the chairperson and vice chair, so we'll put that on the next agenda.
Lee, have they ever held a meeting in the theater? Is that possible that, we just meet there and everyone?
Yeah, we've had, going back a long time ago now, I actually have been here, there have been meetings in there, but this room is set up for the video to be on TV and for the recording. And this is the only room we can do it where we can do it live as well. So it could be done in there and recorded, but I think, in talking with the city manager, we'll work with the chair when this comes up, but we'll have to really have an organized meeting where we can project it in there, we can have it live out in the hallway and in the theater to accommodate whatever overflow we get, and then organize people to come up and make public comment in here and actually conduct the meeting in here.
So we'd see them as before, here and in the hallway using that TV, and if necessary, have another TV in the theater or something,
Right.
something they could view there?
Yeah, it could be projected onto the big screen in the theater.
So we should bring our jammies.
And dinner. Or you could supply coffee.
Dinner and breakfast also.
Okay, if nobody has anything else to add to the commissioner comments, we'd ask for public comment. Public is invited at this time to address any item not on the agenda. Mr. White? No? Take a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the planning commission, but everyone stick around.
We have a motion and a second by Mr. Salerno. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved.